somebody, you got to love his home park. You got to love the basically the whole American League East. So, yeah, I think he's a very solid player. One guy, like I said, I don't have that maybe I have some FOMO on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with your words about the outfield that I think it is a little bit underappreciated. I think Santander, though, for me, he's very similar to a lot of people who are going a little bit later. Also, in the 11th round, there's a lot of people I might want otherwise. So he's probably not going to come up for me in a draft. In an auction, though, because he's going to be part of a big hot spot, as we say, he's in the mix. And whoever falls cheapest is going to fall to me. So I do imagine him getting into some auctions where, maybe the room doesn't want him that much, but there's a lot of players that are going around the same time that are interesting.
Since you mentioned the word auction, real quick, I'm going to have to dig in on this now that I'm definitely doing this 9 a.m. auction.
The one that we're in, of course.
The one that you're in. I just found it amazing.
Don't take them. Don't take them.
I just found it amazing how many $40 players there are this year, and it's not like they're like $41; they're like $45 and up. It's pretty nuts. At least I thought from looking at it the other day.
Are you saying that you disagree with the room that there's no need to be that amount of money?
I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to make for a great time. Put it that way.
Likewise, just stay out of our way in the auction. All right, Ruben, any thoughts on Santander?
Yeah. I'm going to throw some numbers out there. First of all, he missed 3 weeks last year with an oblique injury, and he came to camp late due to COVID issues. He's a Rule 5 pick, so he wasn't really thought to do anything, but he's a number 3 hitter right now in Baltimore. His BABIP was only 248, which was kind of middle of the road, nothing to write home about. And I think the main difference is that he's hitting more fly balls, hitting the ball more in the air, and he plays in Baltimore. I think that's the main difference. Now, he did play 37 games last year. In 37 games, he had 11 home runs and 32 RBIs. There was another player out there who in 47 games hit 13 home runs and 37 RBIs, and that's Juan Soto. Now, I'm not comparing them, but I'm comparing them because if you look at the same type of games, the same game amount that they played, he seems to be a good value at where he is.
Yeah, like I said, the ATC interprojection volatility low. The skew is negative, which means he's got upside, and it's actually a rather high negative skew. And he's pretty balanced around the categories. I mean, to me, there's only upside, not downside. I think that you won't be disappointed with the value. With him, you're either going to get a walk, a single, or a double, or you could get a triple. You never know. I want to go to A.J. Pollock right now. A.J. Pollock is somebody who has earned $40 in rotisserie. He did that in 2015. He had the big stolen bases, which are gone now. A lot of his past profile is gone. He's a different player. But still highly valuable. We're talking about a 13th round play for a guy who last year hit 16 homers in the short season, which is a 43 homer pace. Hit 276. Scaled up numbers would be 80 runs and 92 RBIs. It's kind of a good profile to have. The question, I think, is more health. Let's go to Ruvain first. What are your thoughts on Pollock?
And I think of A.J. Pollock, I think of having him as a keeper back in the day when he slid into home plate in the last game of spring training and broke his ankle and was out the entire year. That's the A.J. Pollock that I'm thinking about. He's played 9 full years of his career so far, and only 3 of them he's played more than 110 games. Now that's crazy. He's 33. He's known for his speed. He only had 2 stolen bases last year and 20 stolen bases over the last 3 years. So if you're getting him for speed, I wouldn't bet on it. And he was on pace, like you mentioned, for all those home runs. His home run to fly ball rate was 26.2 last year. That's not sustainable. At least not for him, not for his profile prior to last year. So I am not buying him.
Matt?
I actually like him. I get what you're saying about the injuries in the past and the speed, but for where he's going, I think he's a guy that he's getting paid by the Dodgers. I know the Dodgers have money; they could eat it and all that. And you're right about the suspect injury health. As much as I've been a fan of this guy, you watch him get hurt all the time. But I think this is a solid player that has pop. He will get you some stolen bases. He's on a really good team. So it depends. if you're filling him in your outfield, I wouldn't want him to be my top 3 outfielder. But for my 4-5, yeah, I'm definitely down with that.
Yeah, he's very balanced category-wise. I mean, projections range anywhere from about 5 to 11 steals. So he's going to get you the half dozen and maybe even a dozen if you're lucky. I doubt that. But, you combine everything, and his intra-projectional standard deviation is only 0.25, which is really, really low. There's very little difference categorical. So he's not going to hurt you categorically. Like, you can stick him in with any kind of profile you have already, and he'll do good. It's health. I mean, he was a $24 player last year. A $24 player, he's going for a $6 value now in the 13th round, right? I think there's more upside than you think. He doesn't even have to play a full season to make his value, right? If he plays the start of the season, plays half, at that value, you're going to earn it, and then you can get a replacement player off the waiver wire for the second half. So I kind of like it here. I don't love it. He's not a must-get for me, but I think that it's an option worth considering 100%. Cole Calhoun is our next player, and that brings us to the injury guys trivia of the week.
So we're going to be talking about Cole Calhoun now. Cole Calhoun is actually one of the answers to the trivia question, but in 2020, only 4 players had 15 or more home runs and 40 or more RBIs. Cole Calhoun is one of them. Who are the other 3?
15 homers.
15 or more homers, 40 or more RBIs from last year. Outfield.
Outfield.
15.
Mookie Betts.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
15 homers. That's a good one.
Ozuna. Marcell Ozuna's got to be there.
Marcell Ozuna, who qualified in the outfield, is 1. That's correct.
I was going to say Rosario, but I think he had 13, so he would.
Okay, you're forgetting about Mr. Trout. Mike Trout is good like that.
That's right, yeah.
And the 4th one, neither of you are going to get. It's Will Myers. Will Myers qualified in the outfield and had more than 15 homers and 40 RBIs because he was part of Slam Diego last year. He hit they had so many RBIs, everyone was on base. Now, we're going to talk about Cole Calhoun. He was on pace last year for 33 homers and 74 RBIs. That is crazy good.
More.
Upper 30s, 80 in the 80s, I'm sorry. That's with a 226 batting average. You know what? I'll live with the batting average because his BABIP last year was only 211. I think that may improve a little bit. His home run to fly ball rate was a little bit on the high side, was not that sustainable. So I expect him maybe in the high 20s, low 30s for home runs. And right now, Roster Resources has him batting leadoff.
I mean, other than the scaled numbers are higher, even. I think he's on pace for 43 homers and 108 RBIs. He other than stolen bases, which he really had not many, and a really poor batting average, the guy was about as strong a 3-category player as you can imagine last year. Cole Calhoun is one of the biggest bargains according to ATC. He's going in the 18th round. Imagine picking up 100 RBIs in the 18th round. Now, ATC is not projecting that, but we're talking 82 runs, 77 RBIs in the 18th round with potential for 25, 30 homers. It's just a great value for that late in the draft. Yeah, you're getting a 230 average, but that's 18th round. There's not much upside you have to have from what we're projecting for him to be more than worth that value. He's a 4 Z-score contributor pretty much in an OBP league, right? In an OBP league, he has a fantastic walk rate. So if you're in an OBP league, he's wonderful. And even in a batting average league, he's not an 18th rounder. He should be many rounds before then. If he's available, then I'm scooping up. Matt?
I'll agree with I did something, say, early on, like in October when I was looking, and I was combining, I don't know if it was the second half or 2019 and the sprint season, and he basically came out to, with his stats as like the poor man's Cody Bellinger. But the question's going to be, as of right now, is he batting leadoff all year? Where's he moving in this lineup? What's happening with Dalton Varsho, who's probably going to start in the minors? I have no problem with Calhoun, but I would look at him as that 225 to 235 hitter, because even with the low BABIP, he never really has had a high BABIP of late, the last few years at least. And, maybe like 240-ish is the upside, 245 looking there. But I don't have a problem with him, say, late in an auction, you want that power guy, because you're going to take on some ugly guys at certain points of the draft for when you're chasing power. So in that instance, yes, but I think everybody needs to have realistic expectations. If I'm penciling him in for 235 with 20-plus homers and, nice counting stats, then yes, he fits the bill.
Yeah. And you mentioned the thing with leadoff. I mean, if he's the leadoff batter, those runs are going to be 80, 90. That makes a huge difference.
I would just caution on the roster resource, which they do a great job, but I wouldn't put it down as like the Bible right now, because you can see a lot of that change.
No, of course.
Well, they had Dalton Varsho lead off a lot, so if he stays up there, he may lead off as well.
Yeah, I think he'll get a decent batting slot though. They're not putting him to eighth. Cole Calhoun. No, I'm high on him. Not because I think he's a great player with upside. I just think it's a value. It's a value pick. Let's talk about another guy. The highest value according to ATC compared to the market, Mark Canha. He's also an 18th round player, but he does chip in a couple of steals. He does have a little bit more upside in terms of the batting average than Cole Calhoun. Maybe not as much power, but he's going to bat somewhere in the middle of the Oakland lineup. He should get a lot of run production, 70s runs and RBIs, let's say. ATC has him projected for 22 homers. We're talking about another guy who's available really late that is just going to give you stuff all across the board. Projections are very stable, very low interprojectional standard deviation with the negative skew, very low intraprojectional standard deviation because he does steal bases. And in OBP league, he's even better. Again, I think he's similar in terms of Calhoun, in terms of the value per spot. And if there's a hot spot, 18th round, Cole Calhoun, Mark Canha going a couple picks within each other. Whoever's available there, I think I scoop up. Matt?
I think he's an all right guy. It's the same with like Calhoun. As long as these guys are like rounding out your outfield, if they're your third outfielder.
In the 18th round, though. 18th round, they're rounding out your outfield.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm just coming from that 30-round mentality of the NFBC, and that necessarily might not be the case. If you filled out your infield, and you got to take pitch starters and closers, I think Canha's a good player. Maybe he's a better real-life player than fantasy, if I want to say that. Like, you look at the RC Plus from 2019, which was like 147 and stuff. But what is he? Is that 240 hitter? He's a nice type guy. I see the projections. I'm not sure. Not the thing that I'm really chasing. I know a lot of people like him. He's not a guy that really appeals too much to me. I'd rather take a shot on either going full power or chasing that speed guy at that point. Put it that way.
Well, let me ask you, at that point of the draft, they're talking about the 18th round. Are you looking for upside players? Because the last two players I mentioned are not really upside players. They're just a good value. You're hitting a double. You're doing something.
I like them more in an auction than in a draft. Let me say that.
Sure.
Because, the way the money's going and how everything there.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm going to be, for the most part, every draft is different and, depending from where I'm picking and how I've mapped it out, I'm going to be pretty aggressive on my outfields. I think the outfield gives you a little bit of everything. You get that power, you get some speed. Some guys have the average. So I like to pretty much be done with my outfield by then, to be honest with you. But I understand what you're saying here, they're nice players, but they got to be guys rounding out like that fifth outfield spot.
All right,
really
so your argument here is from a roster construction perspective, that in a snake draft, you do not want to be in a position where your outfield is even available